Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. Now, we are joined by Arwin, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, good to have you all.
Arvin went to lunch. He'll be back.
Oh, well, that's good to
Arwen
know.
is out to lunch.
Yes, that's true also.
They're trying to sack him.
Hey Adam, good to have you.
Afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Let's do
Hey,
the
Adam.
housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, next.
No, Mitchell put out a video today. He shows a flying boat avoiding that curve.
Any evidence you can have an elevation angle acquired from a curved adjacent?
Haven't heard from Degrassi yet.
Well, as I understand it, no. But if you can answer a calculation based on those flat plane measurements, then it must be a sphere.
What if I, as an individual, cannot fulfill a task that has had an angle taken off a flat plane, then it must be a sphere? No, the angle that was used to ask us those questions by Bob via MC Toon, or the other way around, by MC Toon via Bob, they'd been taken from a flat plane, the angles that they were describing and asking us questions about. Obviously, having already taken the measurements and therefore not requiring any measurement to be done with a sextant whatsoever would mean that, in their mind, they've brushed past the fact that the angles they're asking about were taken from a flat plane.
Right. And if you can't do my calculation that presupposes a globe using existing angles, then it's a globe.
So maybe we can press these dicks for a response in this regard. So they've asked us a question, and obviously we're very keen to answer it, but we need to qualify that particular aspect of the measurements they're asking about. So all those minutes that they're asking us about in terms of where we're going to find ourselves located after we utilise them, yeah, the utilisation of them is going to need a justification for how they were acquired, though. They were measured on a flat plane. You appreciate that, right, Bob and MC Toon? Yeah? So, what gives? Why are you asking us questions about angles measured on a flat plane? In their spheriness regard. It doesn't make any sense. So, like I asked Bob, but then he seemed to run away and get very scared of actually explaining how it proved a sphere. He didn't even seem to know. But maybe MC2 knows better, as it was his text message that eventually made it our way. So you're asking questions about angles measured on a flat plane, MC2. Maybe you can explain why. Because you've proved a flat Earth, my friend. Hope you realise. If not, hopefully people will be knocking on your door. Not me. I've got no interest in coming your way. But maybe someone else will highlight this to you. You've proved a flat Earth with your question because the angles you're asking about were measured on a flat plane, MC Toon. Obviously, he needed a little patsy, didn't he? He needed Bob. He wasn't going to come here himself with this question. So Bob obviously has recognised that Bob's an idiot. Bob will run with anything. So, it spared MC Toon the embarrassment. Yes, obviously Bob was MC Toon's useful idiot. But now we know where the source information has come from, MC2. We'd like to know why you're asking us about flat plane measurements of angles. Can you do that for us? Maybe a little reply video. Yeah, maybe a little advert for the Flat Earth debate, MC2. There's a good dog. Why are you asking us about flat plane angles?
Little correction. Mick Toons, he is not a master of ceremony.
Because obviously...
Is it possible?
You'd want to call that out, you know, when there's people like Professor Dave out there calling yourself an MC. What an outrage. MCs around the world are going to be disgraced, aren't they?
Yep.
Is it possible that Bob didn't know he was talking about angles when he said degree, the measurements in degrees? Maybe he thought he was talking about temperature.
What?
No, I don't think he's that stupid.
Yeah, so then he has to have, at least on some level, recognize the argument.
No, he's a trickster. Remember the first go around, he said he didn't need a horizon.
Yes.
And I pointed out to him, then why does the section have a horizon mirror on it? And then this last show, he said, yeah, you aimed the section at the horizon. Nathan caught him and said, I thought you said you didn't need a horizon. And so in the meantime, he was using an artificial horizon, which, by the way, is a horizon. It's just artificial. So you still need a horizon. This guy's just beyond help.
He was deceptive on the very first time he came on 10, because that's what he did. Later on, then he said he was using an artificial horizon.
No, on the same show, I caught him because I kept drilling him. And I said, well, how do you do it without the horizon then? It's got a horizon mirror on it.
You're too concerned. You're too concerned with this monkey. You know,
no, that was the initial time. That was the initial time when he came in. I'm not concerned with him. I won't even throw him a banana. Are you kidding me?
I'm just saying, we know who the organ grinder is now. So, you know, I mean, we could spend the rest of the time focused on the monkey that was, you know, egged on by the organ grinder to come our way with the organ grinder's evidence. And the organ grinder is McToon.
Is that
there you go?
Is organ grinder TUNE or TOON? McToon, organ grinder?
TUNE.
Yeah, there you go.
Are they trying to compartmentalize this and have half of them take the angle measurements and then just pretend like they don't know how they're doing it, and then have the other half talk about those angle measurements as if the calculations prove it's a sphere?
Yeah.
Is that what they're...
Yeah, offer up the evidence after the angle measurement's been taken from a flat plane and only talk about the numbers that have come from the measurement, not the measurement of a flat plane you got them from.
It's very simple for the audience to understand that after they take a measurement, they must subtract it from 90. And 90 tells you everything, because a 90 is a perpendicular. It's a right angle.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? On? Is this on? Hello? Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, none whatsoever. You need R for that. But Brian was trying to say something. I was waiting for him to finish it.
Yeah, Brian.
That was on the last point. I was going to say that Bob is not really actually dishonest. Bob just can't support what he's trying to support and be honest, if you understand what I mean. He has no choice.
I don't think any of us... Did any of us claim he was a liar? I don't think we did we?
No, but no, I'm just pointing out that I don't think he is a liar. I just think that he just has no choice in the matter. If he has to deny certain things and avoid certain questions because there's no way around. He can't keep doing what he's doing and not deny and not avoid. No,
yeah, being in denial and being in cognitive dissonance is a far cry from being a liar. You know, there's only a couple of people in, 5, 6, 7 years of doing this that are branded a liar. Like I could count them on one hand. Charles is one, Rumpus is one, and while many people did claim he was lying at various stages of the discussion, there was nothing I could call him on specifically until he started lying about his claims that you knew it was refracted with respect to the horizon he was claiming was Earth curve blocking the Isle of Man. Very explicitly claimed, detailed, and held up with the maths, with horizon written on the little X next to the geometric tangent point that they were claiming was being proven in the discussion. That's Earth curve. So the moment he says, I've always said the horizon's refracted, that's a lie. Now, when I can prove it's a lie, and show it's a lie, and I confront them with their lie, and give them 3 opportunities to address their lie, at that point, you go, there's no other words for this. This man's a liar. Rumpus in this example. Same with Charles. I don't need R. Yeah, you do. Here's you using it. I don't need it. I haven't used it there either. Yeah, you have. Here's you using it. No, I don't use it. Yeah, you do. Here's you using it. No, I don't. Where have I ever lied and said I need it? You're doubling down and tripling down on this fact that I've pointed out to you and shown to your audience where you need this thing you're lying about. But you want to continue to double and triple down on this lie. Okay, well, like Rumpus, I've got no choice. I will brand you, this is Charles, Flat Earth Math, a liar, because it's a fact at that stage. There's no way around it. If you're lying, you're lying. Now, in the case of Bob, that's cognitive dissonance. He can't support his claim. That doesn't make him a liar. Not yet.
I'm sorry. Nah, they're liars. If they're faced with the truth and they're still going a certain way, then you're lying only to yourself. So you're still a liar.
No, you're confusing cognitive dissonance with lying. There's a difference.
With this proof that just came out, okay, this sextant, I'm sorry.
The elevation angle argument. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You're faced with it right there. You know Earth is flat, and you're still promoting it as a globe. You're a liar.
No. Don't jump the gun. There will be, as a result of this argument, Neil, I absolutely assure you, plenty of people branded liars as a result. There'll be lots of people caught out in contradictory statements that they've made that they will have to double and triple down on, like Charles and Rumpus, and therefore be branded a liar. Well, that'll happen, I assure you. That's why I'm kind of discussing, or was in the pre-show, asking John about this and saying they've got to be contemplating it, right? They can't not be. They're having to dance past the actual flat nature of their angle measurement. So if they're dancing past it, they must be realising why they're dancing past it. You know, you can't start at step 3 and go, well, I'm just not going to do 1 and 2 for no reason in particular. It's like, no, step 1 and 2 are pick up a sextant and measure a flat plane. So you want to dance past those and start with the measurement you get from that flat plane and only talk about that. Well, that requires some level of cognition that contemplates the awful reality of it being flat. I can't see any other way around it from their perspective. Unless someone can tell me how, no, if they do this, they get to maintain their sphere belief from the off, including and not limited to the angle measurement from a flat plane. Now, I don't see any way that they can do that. Maybe someone's going to correct me and say, no, they can. They can maintain their sphere belief in this paradigm when measuring a flat angle. I don't see how they can. Maybe someone's going to tell me now. Go ahead if you...
Well, that's what I was going to say is as long as they're not dealing with the measurement or how it's acquired or what an angle actually is, and so the originator of the argument, like McToon, he's having to deal with it, right? But when Bob come in, all he has to do is keep asserting that it proves a globe. It's a compartmentalization of the argument. So nobody on their side ever has the full argument.
Well, to a point, John, because outside of this topic, he's saying an angle, to get an angle, just with a protractor, on anything, doesn't need an adjacent. So is he denying how angles are achieved in order to just take someone else's argument and avoid saying it was mine when he himself knows what an angle is? You learned that really young. So when he says there is no triangle, there is no adjacent, and at the same time, he's got to minus or subtract from 90, his reading, what does 90 tell him? 90 tells him there's a baseline, 0 to 90. That's how you get 90. So 0 to 90, you subtract it from that, and you're going to have it. So he knows he's subtracting from 90. How'd you get why 90, Bob? What's a 90? Isn't it right angle? Isn't that perpendicular? Two straight lines? Well, what's that bottom line? Isn't that the adjacent? Oh, no, there's no adjacent. Well, then how do you get your 90 to minus it from? If you're just aiming at the star with one line, Akuma virus says, yeah, the second one, yeah, it's the same one. So you got one line to a star. Brian held him on that one. You remember that, Brian? I do. Where you aim the second, where's the second one? It's the same one. You can't get an angle with one line.
Just draw another line to the same exact measured star or celestial body.
That's what he said.
Same line.
Good luck with that.
Draw it twice. That's 2 lines. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, it's all presupposed. You're going to need R for that. None of that exists either.
As we've talked about it so much, any evidence of the R value? That's Earth radius.
Nope, gone. Black swan. If it was there, we'd all see its effect. It's not there. We don't see the effect of it. Oh, it's there. You just can't see it. It's the atmosphere. What? So it's there, but we can't see it. And the horizon we do see is beyond where it's supposed to be. I thought that was the part that blocks everything. Why is that in front of the horizon that we do see? Because it doesn't exist. It's a thought experiment. Let me tell you, it's going to come out one day. It's just a thought experiment.
Just a consideration.
As far as R goes, from what I've looked at, maybe I'm wrong, but every single claim that has anything to do with the radius uses flat plane measurements to get to the radius. So they're screwed.
Every refraction study uses a flat plane. And then, as Arwen said, considerations are given afterwards, geometric ones.
I've actually got a clip that I took out from the discussion. I believe it was on the same show that Bob was on, but it was actually with Highlander, and QE beautifully summarised right at the end the problem in terms of the Al-Biruni measurement. So if you'll indulge me, I'll play it to you now.
And Arwen, not just welcome to Flat Earth, welcome to geometry.
Yep, they have no clue. Highlander, do you understand what he's asking you for the past, 40 minutes? Let me break it down for you. He's asking, why did Al-Biruni use planar trigonometry to conclude a spherical radius? That's the question.
Huh?
Okay, let me try it again.
So you understand now, Al-Biruni's got to have a flat Earth underneath this mountain to get this triangle. He couldn't do it if it was curved, because he wouldn't have a flat baseline. Maybe interrupt the devastating fact that he couldn't do the measurement if it was curved. So yeah, so QE summarises it beautifully. They're using planar trig, flat
And that
baseline.
laugh. That laugh he has. That's the laugh with, oh no.
That's him trying to take in the information. That's all that is. That laugh is because he can't understand what he's doing wrong.
No, when somebody's got you cornered and busted, you get like a laugh, you know. You got me. Oh boy.
No, listen, it's hard to say what that laugh is, because if you say, what do they think of us? They think we're deranged, conspiratards. So they're mocking us with the laugh because they're thinking highbrow. Their nose is above our nose. You know, it's like, look at these.
Not with this. I'm sorry. Not with this.
No, I agree. I agree with 10th. In this instance, his laugh is like, regardless of the fact that in this moment, it may seem like you've won, I am still on the winning side. And this is all for nothing. So, I laugh in the face of your win. That's what he's actually doing. In other words, his nose is above our nose, as 10th Man described.
So they still Wow, this is nuts to me. After all of this and every spanking they got, they're still looking down like these dumb flat earthers.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, hence it ends up in the personal attack. This person who got the best of me is an idiot. Not this person who proved Al-Biruni measured a flat plane to derive the height to get the R value when he starts with the flat plane measurement. Not an address to that. The question for, in this case, Highlander, why is Al-Biruni measuring a flat plane? Yeah? Well, the response will be, Nathan's an idiot who doesn't know how to use a sextant. That's the response. Because in his mind, he's still on the winning side and elevated beyond my stature. Therefore, he needs to put me back in my place. Not address the argument for how Earth's proven flat by Al-Biruni. That'll never get addressed.
Maybe he's under the impression you can lose every single battle, but just pretend like you won, and that's the same as winning the war.
No, it's like losing every battle, watching every village you own get burned to the ground, but then killing the king and assuming that you haven't lost a thing.
Killing your own king?
I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose that's one way of looking at it too.
If you acquire the elevation angle on a curved surface, then you can gloat. Then you could say, I'm the winner. Not the other way around.
They win when they show us how they get an elevation angle from a curved adjacent. How they measure the angles that they're asking us about and how they work on a sphere. It's like, your angles were measured on a flat plane. We've gone through this at the beginning of the show for MC Toon. Mucktoon. Your claim that you got your little messenger boy Bob to come in with rather than confronting us yourself, you proved a flat plane with that Toon. You realise that? The angles you were asking us about, they were measured on a flat plane. To even have a question to ask, you first had to measure angles off a flat plane. And you've got the gall to send Bob in? What coward? Can you come in yourself and ask us? Yes, because you know what would have happened. We'd have asked you where you got the angles from. So we've got these angles from a flat plane. That's the end of the argument.
Well, that's
Wouldn't
what I'm
it be fair to say
Bob,
that they had philosophical beliefs based on religion, and Islam at the time considered the earth to be egg-shaped? So if you're a tiny little ant on a massive, massive egg, how would you go improve your religion? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Muslim Quran teaches that the egg-shaped earth is what it is. The book of the book of Zohar teaches that the earth is a living ball with people living upside down. The Talmud used to teach the earth is flat, but then the rabbis in the early 1500s changed to a sphere. Now the Talmud teaches that the earth's a sphere with people living on other planets. The only book to this day that has no heliosynchrony, what do you call it?
Heliocentrism.
But as well, the Bible teaches that the earth is stationary, a line stretched across it. Nobody's antipodal. So you tell me, if you have a religious belief and you're trying to prove what you live on, how do you go about doing it?
With all the things we discuss here, like measuring angles.
Well, there's going to be a major conundrum with a lot of the Muslim believers. The earth is flat, and their book is teaching that the earth is an egg shape. The Jewish Kabbalist is going to have an issue with their Zohar book, because that book, and it all comes from the 1300s, by the way, too. It looks like around 1300s to 1500s, they started implementing literature regarding spherical mathematics and spherical ideologies, because it's in the writings, in their religious beliefs. The only thing that hasn't changed, which is ironic because the Bible is written by the Greeks, but you had the Platonists and you had the Hellenistic religion take over. So the Bible is written by the Platonists, which are flat earthers, because the Bible talks about an inscribed circle or a clay-pressed seal, which is circular shape. But then after that, Pythagoreans take over. Like, does anybody want to elaborate on all these religious texts?
But isn't the Old Testament even part of it? Like, I don't see like what is this Islam egg-shaped thing? Are you sure that's actually the shape of the surface, or is that the shape of the realm in which we are?
So, according to Islam, that's the shape of the Earth. It's egg-shaped, according to written literature.
Of the
That
surface.
was
Yeah.
that was
You're saying of the surface, Arwin? Yes.
That's
now
not what I've heard.
originally. Well, that's it. That's what I'm comparing all these religious texts. Now, the reason why I bring up the ant on a large round surface is because if you are an ant on a very large round surface, there's no way for you to tell that the surface is round because you're a little ant. So if you look at all of these religious ideologies, they take that approach, especially the ones that emphasize they live on a sphere.
I see. So they say it's too big to be able to calculate it yourself because you're a tiny ant. See, the problem with that is that in the next breath, and from heliocentrism derived from the church itself, they've got an assertion in their geometry of a sphere that you can see the sphere edge horizon known as Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of your observer's height in feet. So when they, in the religious text, say you can't see it, you're an ant on an egg, and you couldn't figure it out, or a very big ball, or whatever, however you described it more eloquently than I. Well, no, because you would have a geometric limitation to your view if you were on a sphere, or an egg, or any shape that's not a flat plane, which is not a shape, it's an aspect. But that's the only aspect that won't give you a geometric limitation to your view. So in other words, even if you're an ant on a ball, you'd still have a geometric limitation to your view, and in the case of sphere Earth, it's at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It's Earth curve. We've debunked it with the black swan.
Here's the problem with that, is that according to all, like if you just break down the square rooting times 1.22, I've come across a lot of information regarding the sextant using the square root calculation, multiplying it by 0.98 to get a dip correction to the apparent horizon. So even in the early 1700 navigational sextant information that's provided to you, they're not using that 1.22 as the geometrical ball edge as we know it to be now, according to the diameter of 7,918 miles.
Right.
They're using that square root of the observer's height, multiplying it by 0.98 to calculate for air adjustment due to refraction. So it led me to think, okay, what is causing that horizon line? Well, that would be a combination of refraction and diffraction. The vanishing point is the diffraction limit, but the apparent rising and convergence is due to refraction. So those two combinations can be calculated. Now, we've used linear calculations in trigonometry, but then we have an exponential function to qualify for this refraction dip, if you will.
Squaring function.
And that is corroborated.
It's not exponential. Everyone makes that mistake. Squaring function. It's not exponential.
Well, the squared function is exponential, right? The 8-inch per mile squared is an exponential function.
A squaring function isn't exponential. No, it's just, don't worry about it. I'm bandying. It's not. I'm being pedantic. Don't worry.
Well, anyway, you took me off topic. I forgot what I was saying now.
I'm sorry. It's just a bugbear. That's my bad. What you're saying is when you've got this squared function and you're calculating for both perspective and refraction and diffraction. There we go. Hopefully I've given you enough to carry on.
Well, it seems to be that in the squared root function, when it is the observer's height multiplied 1.22, my research is saying that they're deriving that 1.22 from refraction. And so the globe horizon model, the 1.22 function that we use to determine the distance based on the observer's height, it appears that they use that same calculation for calculating dip or refraction, is what I'm saying. So that would lead to conclude to me that square root of the observer's height to 1.22 is actually based on the refracted angle, based on optics. So it's derived originally from optics. And what backs that statement of mine is when you change the focal length of different optics, you get a different distance to that apparent junction. For the most part, it's conditional based on weather and so forth, weather conditions. But primarily, you can change the apparent distance, and that would conclude to me that it's an optical refraction point. And of course, the unresolvable detail of that point would be due to diffraction. But the conjunction or convergence is due to refraction. That's what my conclusion is so far. So
yeah,
I don't know if you guys have.
I agree. It's a combination of that and a whole bunch of other things, including the weather. So yeah, you're absolutely. That was a very eloquent, detailed description, Data. Very, very nice indeed. In fact, and you'd be right, and it would make perfect sense that that would be the case, given that that is what they've hijacked and just called. They've relabeled. They've reassigned those mathematics, which you're saying are well understood, and you calculate your dip correction with it. Yeah, we're detailing that almost daily. And if that's how the function of your eye gives you a derivable horizontal, then it would make sense that that would be the very value that they hijacked and just called Earth curve. And what do you know? That's exactly what they have done. They've hijacked perspective and called it Earth curve. And when it doesn't match up with the squared function that they give you as a geometric tangent point horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, they'll refract it a little bit. Now you're saying, well, the combination of the two is what gives you your horizon in the first instance. Yeah, they've back engineered that, haven't they? Clearly.
Well, here's the interesting point about the back calculation from that. You can derive it from the 60 by 60. So when you look at how arc minutes and 60 seconds and all that stuff came to be, it came from Ptolemy. He derived the 60 because it broke down equally among a 360 degree or a equilateral triangle. So the 60 number was chosen for a reason. So by the 60 by 60 by 24, you can determine this apparent size circumference of Earth just from time. Obviously, you'd have to know the velocity of the sun, or you would conflate the apparent motion either to be the Earth rotation or the sun moving to determine the apparent circumference of the Earth. So the correlation here is that through the 60 by 60 time ratio that we have developed to, we've used since the Egyptians, correlates with our vision. So there's an interesting combination, an interesting correlation between our optics and time.
Well, so it's interesting that you've highlighted it. It's interesting
whether
that
it be the size of the Earth.
Sorry, go on. Yeah, I thought you'd done. Sorry.
Whether it be the size we live on, there seems to be a correlation with time and optics for navigation that correlate to each other.
Well, yes, and that makes perfect sense too, although I've never drawn the connection, so kudos to you. But yeah, when you're deriving the outside edge of a sphere and therefore the radius that it'll have from the averaged celestial movements that we observe, it makes sense that the two are linked together.
Well, it's what makes it interesting is that you can derive 99% of the calculations from time. So
yeah, but they've derived time
from
observation. Yeah. I'll just say it again. They've derived time from that movement of that celestial object, though, haven't they?
Well, that's what it all comes down to, the optics to that celestial being.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all based on the sun. But that's given away in the title of the religion. Heliocentric, sun at center. The sun is at the center of everything, including your time, your dates, your everything. The movement of your very world revolves around the sun. If you're a heliocentrist, not for me. So yeah, time derives the positions. Fascinating. I really love it. It's been eye-opening data. I hope the audience appreciate that a little bit from you, Data. I don't know if they did. Maybe it was over a lot of their heads. I hope not.
I don't know. Well, when you realize that a lot of the calculations were done by candlelight, you'd have to think, what base did they work off of? Because keep in mind, all calculations start off with a base. Even this apparent deviation from verticals along the horizontal, they have to have a base to measure the deviation, right? So when they calculate everything, who was the first? Obviously we were dealing with the Egyptian timekeeping. And my research says that the Egyptians thought the Earth was a square foundation. That's why the longitude and latitude lines are the same. I think the pyramid base is basically latitude longitude lines that we use in modern map making to this day. So I don't know if anybody knows that as well, but we're definitely living in Egyptian world still.
Yeah, Adam and I were discussing this. He's come off mute. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to agree. I think everything is astrologically Egyptian in its formation, whether that's the way we've adopted, but fundamentally all the ancients, that all the calculations are taken. I'm saying Egyptian. That's kind of where we attribute it. I think it's pre-Egyptian, sort of pre-First Dynasty. This knowledge is still, coming from. I think it dates further than that. But just one little bit, what you said there, Dave. If I can go back to the Islamic ant, because I love looking for these things. I think I found it. I think it's Surah 79, 30. It reads, "And the earth after that." And there's two options here. You can say made it, and the earth after that made it egg-shaped. So that you could read it that way. But if you look at the derivation of the word, the first choice is he spread it. If you look at where the word comes from, the reason it has this double meaning is it originates from the Arabic description of ostriches, how they lay their eggs, and what they do. Let me just share screen. This is why it's got the double meaning. You could say it's an egg, or you could also say it's, and this is what it's saying, is it's the way in which an ostrich levels out the sand to create its eggs is what it's discussing and describing. That, the way an ostrich prepares its bed for the eggs is the descriptive word. So it can actually read, like I said, as it says here, and the earth after that, he spread it. So he spread the earth out. Or alternatively, probably more in modern times, when we're trying to get heliocentric, we can reinterpret it as he made it egg-shaped. I think both are equally valid.
Adam, the interesting part for me is the description in the Bible clearly does not depict anybody antipodal. The Book of Zohar depicts antipodal people. The Quran talks about egg-shaped earth, right? So we're looking at old historical text written by people who had beliefs about where they lived. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Everyone, just one second. I just want, as Adam made the point, I know it's not your point, Data, but your point is nobody's depicting it antipodal. But then you say other than, and Adam's saying, well, you can infer that, but not necessarily even the example you've given would suggest antipodal positioning either.
Well, if the Earth is egg-shaped, right? I mean, you would have people living all over places of the egg, and if that was the case, they would be naturally antipodal, but that would be an assumption based on the shape being described. The Bible doesn't offer any of that insight of antipodal people. In fact, it clearly states that God's directly above the circle. So what I'm noticing is there seems to be written historical written material coming from two foundations of philosophy: the Platonist and the I can't even say that word, Hellenistic teachings. And it seems that they were antithesis of each other back in the day, in according to their own writings. And I think Aristotle and Plato even concluded that Pythagoras had a new way of life. I mean, Pythagoras was talking about reincarnation and all kinds of interesting stuff back in the day, but he was one of the main proprietors for teaching that the earth was a ball. But if you look at the Bible writings, it's not described that way. So it leads me to believe that the Greek Platonists were involved in translating Hebrew scripture. And then, like I said, when you research further, you realize that the Talmud taught a flat earth, but that then too changed in around the 1500s. Right? So you have these philosophical influencers influencing historical biblical text on creation, and the Bible is separated. The Book of Zohar agrees with the Torah, or sorry, agrees with the Talmud now. The Book of Zohar agrees with the Quran now, which these are three mystical books that are opposing what's written in the Bible. This is what I'm noticing. So if anybody else doesn't notice that, or I'm wrong, please tell me.
I think I agreed. I said modern interpretation. We had a good debate yesterday as we were talking about the dome, and it's been bugging me for a while. I managed to find an old picture of it. This is one of the earliest pictures of the comprehension of the universe via early Jews. Its derivation is that the universe, God told the Jews to build the temple, the tabernacle, in a particular way for God to be there, and they make this assumption, and with other bits and bobs, that therefore that creation will hold a similar shape. So that seems to be the earliest picture I can recollect of a cosmos, a Jewish cosmos. It says here, look, the Holy of Holies is Mount Zion in the middle.
No offense, right? But that's crap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look how crap
your kids could do a better picture than that.
I was thinking exactly the same.
I have a few things to say on all that's been said, if you will afford me the time.
Of course, Brian, and you're so polite about it.
Thank you. Well, I don't agree with some of the things I've been hearing. I'm going to start off with this. The geometric horizon is only in the maths. So anything they have been doing with the real horizon, I don't mean to put it down, but it's not as important. Where did their geometric horizon come from? We were told that they measure to a geometric horizon to gain a radius. No, that is not correct. The geometric horizon is only in the maths because it comes from a radius calculation, and that calculation comes from a claimed celestial sphere, right? So the globe Earth, its radius value, its diameter, its circumference around its equator, and its geometric horizon are all based on the hijacking of the perspective view of the sky. And the whole lot is based around the sky because it has to match. It has to match what we see in the sky. It has to match astronomy. So that is why we have a geometric horizon that is only in the maths. So whatever they did with the real horizon, whatever they do, or any calculations they do, or any messing around with diffraction and that and else they do, I don't mean to sound bad about it, but it doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the horizon that was supposed to be blocking boats and buildings for centuries, because that was only ever in the maths.
Well said.
Now,
well, that's what I'm trying to highlight to you, Brian, is by letting you know that they literally taking the square root function, multiplying it by 1.22 as not a boundary of feet and inches value, but as a refraction diffraction point. In other words, squaring the circle, right? Using that squared function, basically a triangle, to determine this dip drop function, which appears to be an exponential function, right? A squared function with optics, as opposing to trigonometry, which is a linear function. So the hijacking, if you will, is evident because we can take different focal lengths and see this apparent convergence change, or this junction, if you will, that can be calculated as a horizon based on an observer with no additional optics, right? So I'm just saying that formulation that we're using seems to be not anything to do with ball Earth, but actually optics of the human eye. Right. And that's what you're saying as well as everybody else here. And so, because, I spent a year, 2 years, if not longer than that, trying to find a formulation that would best represent that exponential function of dip or drop, if you will, in the curve calculator. And I can't come up with, I can use, trigonometry, but then I'm adding in, calculating 5 minutes of refraction to calculate for the the feet and inches value that's calculated in the exponential function, right? So, or the squared function, if you will.
Indeed.
I don't think it's that complicated.
No, they've
John.
laid it out for you. The 0.666 is basically what you're going to use to get that roughly that hidden. But again, that's just like 10th Man said, it's basically a thought experiment, giving you a mathematical description of what it possibly could be, right? Meanwhile, ignoring the whole refraction, diffraction limit, optical angular limitation.
It's excluded with Muppet Vision.
I'll go after John.
Well, what I was saying is I don't think it's that complicated because it comes down to the initial claim is a philosophical one, because they're saying the only things that exist are physical. We see the horizon, it's physical. And everything else is worked backwards off that assumption.
But see, this is what I'm saying. It's not. Well, no, not that I'm saying John is completely wrong there. Everything is worked backwards off of the assumption that the sky is curved and it's a sphere. And that's how they have the sphere they have. That's why their circumference, their diameter, their radius, and their geometric horizon are all mathematical, because they have to work it mathematically that what we see is what they say we will see mathematically to do with their sphere, their globe, because their whole globe. Sorry, Neil, you're feeding me. Their whole globe is based on the hijacking of the view, our view of the sky. Now, everything they do, right? I know people don't like to hear this, but I'm going to keep on saying it. Everything they do, right, has to be, if they're going to work within the world we live in, has to be worked within numerology. And they're working within around the number 9. 0.666, right? People think that's to do with the mark of the beast, 666 from the Bible. No, that is also worked around number 9. 666 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. It's all based on 9. 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours. Or sorry, 60, 60, 24. That's all based around the number 9.
Just so you know, the ratios of the human body is where the 666 comes from. It's all about the ratio of the human body, the optics, and the ratio of the length of the arm to the thumb. Yeah. It's all ratio based. So that 666 is the mark of man.
Yeah, but this is what the point I'm making. 666 numerologically breaks down to 9. And there's a multitude. I made a video on it, and I'm constantly seeing things that always break down to 9. 9 is some kind of an important number numerologically in the world, in our natural world. It's been kind of hijacked by these people, but it does have relevance. Now, on top of that,
9 is the highest digit in the universe.
Okay, everyone stop.
Please.
I just want to go back to one of Data's points, because it was one of the earliest points I heard in this argument, and it was from Math Powerland. So you detailed how you can change where the horizon is by changing your camera's lens, essentially. I'm dumbing it down a little bit, Data. Just nod along if you wouldn't mind. Oh, or just don't say anything. Either's good. Go ahead.
So it's all good, yeah. I'm nodding.
Perfect. So, well, that debunks Earth curve in the first instance. Because if you've got a hill that's between you and something beyond the hill, no matter what camera lens you put on, you will never retrieve something that's behind the hill and put it on top of the hill. Now, Earth curves claim to be a physical obstruction to your view. The edge of the sphere getting in your way with a drop beyond it. That's a physical limitation, like a hill. The edge of the hill being the top edge that blocks things behind it. Now, there is no circumstance where you can change your camera lens and change where that physical hill lies. The moment it does, it tells you that what you're looking at isn't physical. It's not got a geometric point that you can measure. It's not got a postcode. It's not the edge of a sphere. It's not Earth curve. The moment you move it, it's no longer a physical limitation.
Well said. And I just want to say 9 is the highest digit in the universe, and I agree with Brian. It's all back engineered.
1 is the loneliest number that you... Yeah, we won't.
Well, 60 degree is, if you look at even the just optics when it comes to going to see an optometrist, 60 degree cone of vision at a 90 degree line of sight ends up with the ratio of 0.666. So even basic optics at that point will show you. Now, if we have refraction calculated and the assumption of what fraction does at a rate of change, you can quantify that rate of change. And that's what they've done with the 0.666 calculation.
What type of refraction?
Well, any light passing, any light that's in one medium passing into a denser medium will change the effect of that light path.
No. That's not the definition of refraction.
Not interested in what you think the definition is.
Oh,
QE,
God.
No, not what I think. What I know the definition of
light is in one medium. Yeah, listen.
Don't overtalk me, fuckwit. It's not my definition of refraction. It's what the definition of refraction is. So I'm going to ask you again, Mr. Dip Refraction. What refraction are you talking about?
So anytime light is in one medium and enters in another medium and exits that medium, pivots its point of direction.
When you say medium, what do you exactly mean?
When the light is in one medium, when light is, and this is the definition, QE, by the way, when light is in one medium and enters and exits another medium, it
you already said that. I asked you, what are the mediums? Give us an example.
Well, if we're looking at the index of refraction, air is to be at 1, close to a vacuum as possible. So any other medium that's denser than 1, according to the refraction index, will obviously change the path of that object entering that densing medium. So if we have light,
citation, please.
If we have light in a
citation, please. I'm not going to listen to you fucking monologue. Citation of refraction, please, right here in main chat. And include that dip refraction you brought up too. Okay?
So go look at the...
I'm not going to look at anything. That's an elephant hurling fallacy. You go get it. You claimed it. And now put it in main chat.
Yeah, so what I'm claiming here is verifiable. Will anybody take 5 minutes?
No, not anybody. You need to do it.
Stop cutting me off, dude.
You're done.
What's the problem? I don't understand what's just happened, QE. What's the deal?
The problem is he's just monologuing, just making bullshit up that he can't support. He's using refraction, this dip refraction, what, observer's height refraction? Which refraction are we talking about? Looking at the horizon refraction? We need citation here, and then we want you to define refraction.
I'll comment on that, QE. Dip is height of eye above sea level. Refraction is a separate thing. In the sextant manuals...
So 10th man, I was just going to tell you this. Since you're into the sextants, go look up this.
Hold on, Data.
I'm in the middle of something.
Just let him go, Data. Just pop yourself on mute so we don't have to serve him, whoever's doing that. Just hopefully I can reason with him. Just keep yourself on mute till 10th's done, Data. Thanks.
Yes, the sextant is an angle measuring device. There's no refraction mirror on the sextant. There's nothing on the sextant for refraction. It's after you get all the information. And if you're going to be at a certain altitude, like if it's 90 degrees above you, it's 0 refraction. It's at your zenith. It's coming straight down. There's no medium doing nothing to it. And as it goes down in altitude towards the horizon, anything above 15, 20 degrees, they have very standard refraction corrections because it's something they can gather. I put 2 things in Master B that go through it. I told Adam to check it out. I just put it there a few minutes ago.
That what's presented now?
That's not the one I put.
That's what we were doing last night, Tim.
Yeah. But let me finish the thought here. What John QE is saying is dip needs to be addressed separately, and then refraction needs to be addressed separately. You don't combine the two. And I agree with that.
Okay, so, well, maybe you should look at some more sextant manuals, because I'm reading off of a manual that was made for 1753 sextant by J. Scott London. It reads here, dip correction, adjust for the position above sea level, which we all agree on. That's what it is. It's your height above sea level. That's what the dip correction is. However, they're claiming that you can square root the elevation by 0.98 to find the amount to correct the angle measured by, and the angle you measured by is refraction. It says the light rays bend when passing through a substance.
That's exactly what I was talking
Huey,
about.
you ready?
What type of
You ready?
refraction is
Yeah.
that?
Light rays bend when passing through a
Oh,
substance.
really? Light
There you
rays don't exist.
Yeah, it's a convention there, but so you can understand light rays are not actual rays. Light in itself bends.
Oh,
passing
so
through
we're
medium.
talking imagination then, is what
So
you're
we're
saying.
talking a descriptive language so we can
A
communicate on the
descriptive
ideas.
imagination. That's what we're talking.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I'd like to answer. I'd like to answer him.
Anybody claiming to know the size of the Earth is using an imagination, Huey.
No, I'm not.
I'd like to
saying that.
answer
I'm
his
saying-
claim. May I
Go ahead,
answer
point
that
is
claim?
that they're
Yes,
equating.
go ahead.
Go ahead,
the
Ken.
height of-
Just 1 sec. Data.
They're
and Huey.
equating the height above the
Just 1 second.
horizon
Data. and
Go ahead,
Huey.
10th.
and the
I'm trying.
correction.
I'm
Data
trying.
and Huey,
refraction.
please. Go ahead, 10th.
Yes, and one of the sources I posted in Master B, here's the conclusion of a guy doing dip and refraction. Conclusion, I believe that I understand where the dip tables and formulas come from. I also understand that some dip equations take refraction into account, figure 7, and some do not, figure 3. Dip was a good impairment to use to kick off my learning process. Next are index error and refraction. So as you delve
so 10th
into
man.
this, I'm talking.
So that's what I was bringing. That's what I was bringing up.
talking.
Is the
Oh my. What are you bringing up? My next sentence?
no? You didn't
Well,
hear
then-
me
then
earlier.
please-
Then I was
No,
telling
why are you interrupting me?
I'm drawing a parallel to the apparent position
Excuse
of the
me,
horizon.
You're still
to
going to
the-
talk. You're still going to talk.
Well, you don't understand my point, I don't think. So you keep going
Well,
on
how
about it,
could
but you're
I?
not understanding my point.
You're saying I don't understand your point, but you interrupt before I can finish my point. So obviously you're clairvoyant. What's my thought right now?
Okay, so the dip
No, that wasn't
correction we
it. You're
agree.
wrong. No,
The dip
that's not
correction
it.
we
You're
agree
wrong.
Hold on,
upon
let's take
is the
control.
height above the
Sorry,
observer.
he was being sarcastic, Data. He wasn't suggesting that you do actually demonstrate your clairvoyance. He just wants to finish his point. Just give him another 30 seconds. Thanks. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, see, when the sextant is just to measure angles. After the sextant measures the angles, then you have to put in all the site reduction, do your formulas to say, okay, where did I shoot that below 15 degrees? What's the tables for that refraction? It's not anything to do with the sextant. It's after the sextant is used. So the sextant has nothing to do with it, any of it. It's the corrections you apply to make sure. There's other corrections, index mirror correction, all the different things to make sure your sextant's calibrated. So what I'm trying to say is that as you read on the subject, not just one source, two sources, but hundreds, there are dip tables in the almanac that are just for height above sea level. Then there are dip tables that includes the refraction as well. You have to realize which ones you're looking at. That's an after angle measurement. That's all I'm saying. Now go on.
Yeah, so I'm drawing a parallel to the equation square root the observer's height multiplied by 1.22 to give us the distance to the horizon. What I'm alluding to is that in 1753, this particular square root of the observer's height multiplied by 0.98 offers you the same apparent junction or convergence of the sky and ground causing the horizon. So I'm saying by that information, I'm concluding that the square root of the observer's height multiplied by 1.22 is an optical derivation mathematically provided to you, and it's been conflated as Earth curvature when it's an actual calculation for optics. And my conclusion comes from the fact that I'm reading a manual based on a 1753 sextant, where they say that after you've done the measurement, you correct for refraction by using that calculation. So if I can use that calculation to correct the refraction, then it has nothing to do with physical Earth curve. It has everything to do with the optics and the angle that we're measuring that
Nothing
optical.
to do with refraction either.
I'm glad you
obviously
clarified.
the square root
Okay,
of the-
guys,
obviously the square root-
guys. he's summarising a very good point, which for me took a good year to draw the same conclusion. Took hours of sitting with Life is Short on Ranty's show, with him explaining all of these different aspects of you raising up your altitude and opening up the angle and all of these different optics. All he's doing is summarising a good point. And we're majoring on the minors in terms of his description, which he's citing from this sextant manual.
We are. Yeah, hold on a second. We are, but I'm not arguing about that. That's not my point. My point is about this dip refraction, right? Not the overall point about the 1.22 and where it was derived from. I got, we got that about 8 years ago. I'm looking at this, what 10th posted right here. It says dip includes an allowance for refraction below the horizontal plane. And it's got a little photo right here between Bob's whore and the apparent horizon with the dip. Can you put that up?
I'll keep the live show open for a bit longer just so we can get this squared away. Because I'm still not 100% clear on the issue. I've got to be honest. I'm just slow on the uptake today, Kiwi. I'm sorry. Shout out to Uniswap Somu for the super chat. It says Dober Dan. Okay, thank you for the super chat, Sasha. Can someone present?
Yeah. My argument, I'm going to say this again, is about this refraction horse shit with the dip. That's
and my statement is that I'm backing it up with instructions from a 1753
I don't really
sextant.
I don't really care.
It says,
validate
where
refraction.
it says, but you're not listening to the point I'm making.
Yeah, I am listening to you.
No, you're not. Okay, then what's my point I'm trying to make?
Fuck off. I'm not putting up with your horse shit.
But I see making a good point.
Let me ask a question.
Shouted down. I don't get it. I'm still confused, and I'd love to know why.
What?
Nathan,
Shout
let me
it
ask
down.
a question. Maybe it'll move things forward.
Yeah, that'll help.
Is he making a claim that he's saying these things, or is he making a claim that this is the globe argument that's erroneous? Because if he's just demonstrating a globe argument that's erroneous, then of course it would be erroneous.
Right.
So I'm not demonstrating anything to do with globe. It's not about globe. It's about the use of a sextant over a plane and how they derived calculations due to refraction, dip, whatever index error you want to pinpoint your problem. We can just start there.
It's not the use of
stop.
No monologue.
Everyone stop.
No monologue.
Yeah, no.
It's not the use of. Hold on. It's not the use of a sextant. 10th already went over that with you. So that's all I needed to say. Go.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
I'm going to attempt to summarize Dave's point. Hello.
Can anyone hear me?
Flat Earth Goddess.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, cool. This is Flat Earth Goddess. What's up? Listen, I love what you guys are talking about, but I just had to intervene here because whoever's getting mad and frustrated about what the meaning of the words is, this is irrelevant. Like, they're getting emotional for nothing. And all this...
The meaning of words is very important. That's how we communicate with each other.
...doing is looking at the etymology of words.
No, we're not.
Basic exactly what the word really means. So like the word refraction doesn't mean any of that. All it means is to break up. Refraction means to break something up. So whatever you're looking at, if it's a heat source in front of it or whatever is affecting the image, that is refraction. It has nothing to do with the shape of the earth.
That's not the argument.
But that's not the argument exactly.
Okay, just before it gets lost, because I thought it was so valid, and I'm not going to claim it's being shouted down, but I am going to summarise it again as I understand it. Right. So what data is saying is, currently, we have a claim of a geometric horizon. That claim is set out with a certain mathematics attached to it. Now, if you go back far enough and look at a sextant manual, they offer up almost identical mathematics. But when they describe them, they're not saying it's because of a geometric horizon, they're saying it's because of quote-unquote refraction. And they're describing a dip correction and the refraction that could occur and the maths that's most appropriate to correct for it. Now, in this instance, all data's saying is, I see a correlation between the claim in this instance to correct for optical errors, if you want to call them that, when utilising this methodology. And it coincidentally is exactly the same as the maths being used to assert we've got a sphere edge horizon. Now, obviously, we do have a horizon. And obviously they're not going to pick random numbers out of their ass. They're going to pick numbers that match with what we do actually see. And when you go back far enough, what we do actually see is laid down in optical terms rather than geometric terms. That's all he's saying. Am I right, Data? Someone's server muted him.
Let me.
Oh no, I just want to check.
So in a nutshell,
I'm summarising Data's
Nathan
point.
nailed it.
Yeah.
Nathan nailed it 100%, because this is what the search is the origins of this information and where the conflation happened. Anybody using an Earth curvature calculator at this point, it doesn't recognize there's no optics involved, and it must ask how they devise these calculations. Well, in this particular manual from a 1753 sextant like Nathan picked up on, it's giving me the same calculation for the apparent distance to the horizon using the same calculation, but it has nothing to do with Earth curve, or the physical curvature of Earth.
Send me that link.
I mean,
Netta,
when you
let
put
me ask
the
you a
actual
question.
numbers
Nathan,
into
when I
the
can get
equation, I've done the Earth curve calculator myself many times. I live in Florida. I can go to St. Augustine and I've done them off the lighthouses. I've done them off the shore. I've done them off boats. The number is never actually what it's supposed to be. That's the point. People say, oh, there is an equation for it, but it's not. When you actually do the work and plug in the numbers and actually do the scientific method, it's not what it's supposed to be. That's why we're questioning. That's
Okay, let's we'll come to the after show. Stop. Everyone stop. Give her a break. We'll cover that in the after show. I heard.
Yeah, do y'all let anyone finish talking before? I can't hear y'all if you're talking when I'm talking.
Okay, thank you. We've got a whole load of groans and moans from G+, so I want to read out Unitox Svemu's super chat. We're still live, by the way. Okay, can you obtain elevation angle from a curved adjacent? Says Unitox Svemu. Right, let's get back on track. I heard the moans and groans from G+. Right, obviously there's been a lot discussed on this live show, so I do want to get your comments before I round out and ask everyone to stay tuned. So, who wants to go first from G+?
He said scientific method.
Please,
we'll cover that. Oh, okay, bro. Neil's just muscled his way in. We will cover that. I heard QE's exasperate tone when she said that. We will cover it later. Anything about what I've just summarised from data? That was the majority of the show.
I have. It's very simple. Brian. There's something being completely conflated and seen wrong here. I told you earlier the geometric horizon is only in the maths because the radius and the circumference and all this is only in the maths because it's all based around the celestial globe, right? And the hijacking of perspective there. Anything to do with the curve calculator has nothing to do with what we see. What Data is talking about, I'm not talking about his dip and talking about the sextant, I talk about in general what he's talking about, is that they told us when something appears to be disappearing from the bottom up, right, a boat or whatever at a distance, that's our curve. When it had nothing to do with our geometric horizon. They hijacked perspective effects and whatever to do with optics, all optic effects, and they told us that the boat was disappearing over a geometric horizon, when in reality, the geometric horizon was only ever mathematical. So what Data is talking about, besides the dip and to do with the sextant, what he's been talking about for a long time is that what the effects that we see, that we were told was our curve, was never our curve. It was always only effects. The our curve was only ever in the maths. There was no geometric horizon. It doesn't exist. It's mathematical, as they've all been admitting.
I'd like to go next.
Two completely different things.
You got to the end. Go ahead, 10th. Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Yeah. There's too many topics here, it seems like. The one that I stood up against was the usage of dip refraction. I think QE also. Dip and refraction would be a better terminology. Dip is height above sea level, and refraction is light from 90 degrees where there is no refraction from your zenith all the way down to zero. And they say it's very hard if you take sites below 15 degrees because there's so many things happening that refraction messes with, but there's much more stable refraction tables above 15 and some say 20 degrees. So my opposition is to conflate dip and refraction as one and the same. They're two different things. And the sextant always says, go to the nautical almanac for the dip and refraction tables. Sometimes they're put together because it's in minutes and seconds. Sometimes they're separate. That's the only clarification I want to make.
Anybody else from G+ got anything to add?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, Adam.
First of all, I'm confused what all the stuff was. When I presented this information with 10th a week and a half ago, it wasn't the contrafibulations that's just occurred today. This is, you know, when I put up that crappy little picture of a man and his cone of vision, it seems like data. And if you could send me the source, I'd really like to see this one. It sounds like it's the same one, which is what me and 10th was saying. You find the really, really old manuals, and they don't conflate this optical effect with Earth curve. They are describing it just totally optically. So, respectful, I think we're reading the same thing. But if you could send it me, I'd appreciate it. Just to follow on with what 10th was saying, yeah, dip's one thing, and dealing with refraction, celestial refraction, is something. And this again is 1855. This one. This is what me and 10th were looking at yesterday. Because it's talking about bits, and it's actually talking about the changing in the size of the sun at different altitudes and different positions, different degrees of altitude, and how it has different sizes. But what and just to summarize, I won't go into great detail, but what I found was interesting, if I could just read this bit, is in this really old book, he's taking apart Kepler and the heliocentric model just based on greater understanding of what you're doing when you're looking at these things, dealing with celestial refraction. So had Kepler been aware of these laws of atmospheric refraction, the augmentation of celestial bodies when they are looked at obliquely, he would have made the annual orbit, he would not have made the annual orbit an ellipse. Had astronomers existed at that period, they would have informed those in Europe that the apparent variable diameters of the sun were quite the reverse in the south to what they appear to be in the north. Therefore, we must have some other reason than merely the observed variable diameter of the sun to maintain that the orbit of the earth is an ellipse. The apparent variable velocity is also produced by the same atmospheric illusion. I'll leave it there, but I thought that was quite nice that even back there, look, they're pointing out that the whole heliocentric model is bunkum. If you do understand how to use the sextant and do take into account the understanding of celestial refraction, and this, like I said, this one's in detail specifically with the sun, because the sun, the moon, and the stars do have different factors to deal with. So there you go, I'm finished. Thank you.
Shout out to Theo Megawerty. Thank you, Adam, by the way. This all boils down to how do you achieve a physical location of an apparent position? Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Theo. Anybody else got any other comments? As we've had an extension, we've run over massively. Might as well in for a penny. Go ahead, John.
Well, I think QE's got a point about the definition of refraction, and the whole idea of celestial refraction. I don't know if I buy it, because to claim it's refracted, you'd have to know where it was first. I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, I still think that's majoring on the minors in terms of what was trying to be put across by data. You know, you're focusing on the citation and its use and Weasley use of words and descriptions, and it's like, yeah, you can criticise the reference all day long, but it doesn't change the fact that the point being made is you don't necessarily have to assume that 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height will give you a geometric horizon when there's examples that show it and utilise it without any reference to it. So obviously you've got an optical effect, and at some point somebody's derived this mathematics and gone, that's where you'll roughly see it. Now, as what was your name, Flat Earth Goddess pointed out, that's not the case. Now, obviously we've got much better lenses than back in 1700s, but nevertheless, it doesn't match up with what we have with our super zoom cameras, and that's back to, again, a point that Data made. You can change your lens and move the physical geometric edge that's being described optically as refraction. But when everyone pounces on, well, no, that's not refraction. What about the medium? What about this? It's like this. He's not saying this. He's just taking it from the text, you know. So don't necessarily shoot the messenger. Listen to the point he's making.
The point's brilliant. Is that the old text does not draw on Earth curve to make these corrections for dip. Yeah, it doesn't describe them with a circle like what's on screen now. It doesn't describe them like that. It just describes them, as I said, your cone of vision. It's dealing in its mathematical calculations solely with optics and how your angle of attack, as we call it, and how that opens up the higher you go. That's what it deals with in the earliest edition. It doesn't draw a picture of a ball to the horizon. It's not dealing with that.
Right.
And I think that's what Data was alluding to, that the correlation in the numbers.
Right. When I detailed the perspective hijacking Earth curve maths, Data's come along and gone, here's where they hijacked it from. This is how they were using it before they started calling it Earth curve hedge. There you go, check it out. They reference it. And you go, wow, that's interesting. So they've got the numbers from somewhere, and they worked prior to the assumption of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. But that obviously at some stage matches up quite nicely with the horizon, otherwise they wouldn't be using it. But it wasn't always called Earth curve, and it wasn't always claimed to be geometric. That's the main point. But with that, I am going to round out this live show and say, given that there's 190 people watching live at some stage, which is absolutely fantastic, so a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!